In today's video, I'll explain the differences in the features between children and adults. We'll look at children at the ages of 2, 6, and 12 years old and compare them to the adult at age 25. A really great resource for this is the book How to Draw Heads and Portraits by Jose M. Paramon. I'll leave a link in the description. If you'd like to paint along today, I'll leave a link to the reference picture that we got from Pexels.com in the description below. Now, I did change it up quite a bit in Photoshop. You can see here the original reference picture as compared to what I did to it in Photoshop for our painting. And here you can see the palette that we've prepared for today's painting. The description for the paint colors is listed, and I also have a video on my channel that explains how you can mix a palette like this using Photoshop to analyze the colors in your reference material. Just hit the link above. While it is not absolutely necessary to know what the differences are, it is helpful. Richard Smith says, "I don't have to eat an apple to be able to paint one," which I totally agree with. But if you're painting the portrait of a child and something looks off, then knowing the differences in the placement of features between the ages could actually help you figure out how to fix the problem. Well, if it's not one of value or color, that is. Okay, I am following a selective start method here, but I did put a few tick marks down to kind of keep me in line. I wanted to make sure I knew where I was going to start, so I put a tick mark for that mark. And then I moved across so I knew where the pupil of the eye and then the corner of the eye was going to land. And then again where the eye on the right side started. And I just like to put those little marks. It just keeps me in line, and I tend to paint the features too small. These marks will help keep me on the right path. Welcome to my channel, Shelley J. Cox. Come along with me on my art journey. Also, when painting children's portraits, it should be done with a soft touch. No severe edges or lines within the face. At least be careful. Children's faces are round, not angular, so you want to use soft shadow shapes around the eyes. If I paint in a hard line out of habit from painting adult faces, I will go back over it with a soft brush. There are many differences in the proportions between the child and the adult head. A child's head is larger than an adult's when compared proportionally to its body. A child's head has a large cranium. This is the part of the skull that holds the brain. It is very disproportionate when it's compared to the size of the face. Children have large eyes. When open, a child's eyes almost form a circle. Adults' eyes are more almond-shaped. This is due to children being born with an adult-sized iris and pupil. This also causes the eyes to be set further apart than adult eyes. So the rule that we use for adults where there is an eye's width between the eyes does not apply here. Also, the position of the eyes on a child's head is slightly below the center line, whereas with the adults being positioned on it halfway up the head. In children, the nose is small and turns up slightly. Since the nasal bones are not fully developed, this causes the nostrils to be more pronounced until about age 6. The hairline is further back until around age 6. That's why children look like they have such large foreheads. And then around age 12 it starts to creep forward and their hair becomes much thicker. The ears are larger and lower on the child's head until around age 6. The ears become fully developed around age 12, but are still not as high on the head as the adult. All the child's features are soft and rounded until about age 25, when they become much more angular and defined. So let's see if I can keep the softness going in my portrait of this little girl who I believe is around age 3. When I mixed my palette for this little girl, I was thinking about the video where we painted the Bouguereau master copy. And I wanted those same kind of neutral skin tones, not very much saturation in that flesh. So you're gonna see the flesh tones in this little girl's face do stick with that. There are a lot of grayish, gray purples, gray pinks, but overall it's a pretty neutral skin tone. You'll see here as I paint the eye, I'll put in a harsh line and then I'll be going back over it with a softening lighter color to blend that in a little bit. But I'm not really like blending it, I'm just adding more paint either on top of it or below it, just trying to soften it. Here you can see a couple of commissioned portraits that I've done of children. Typically I tend not to want to paint children that are younger than age 2. 3 is preferable, but definitely not younger than 2 years old. And a great way to get your reference material for children is to actually videotape them. So you can freeze frame your video when you get back to your studio and then go from there. I find it more, I don't know, what's the word? Authentic, a little more playful if you're doing video with them rather than trying to get them to pose. Seems like the children and posing just never tend to work out, especially the younger children. So you can see here that the children's eyes, we talked about that earlier, how they're wider apart than adult eyes, more than the eye width rule that we use for adults where it's the same wideness as one eye that makes the distance between the two eyes. With children it's more, but with this reference material she's turned a little bit so it's a 3/4 view, so the eyes are going to appear a little closer together due to that foreshortening. And with a younger child's portrait, you can exaggerate the roundness of the eyes. I mean, they are very round when they're young, so you can have fun with that and push it a little bit. Here I'm trying to really emphasize the roundness in the eyes. If you're getting some value out of this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. As I lay down my brush strokes, I try to imagine that I'm a sculptor and I'm really feeling the areas that are protruding outward or the areas that are carving inward, and I put those strokes down and I'm wanting to feel each lump and bump and divot. When painting a child's eyebrows, you want to definitely keep them super soft, very light and airy, definitely nothing hard or too severe. So you can see here that I'm painting in some of the shadow tones, so the light source is coming from the top left and then falling away past the nose and then again on the right side of that cheek. So let me put the reference photo up in the corner here so you can see it as I'm painting this little cheek and lip area. It's quite unusual since the little girl has her hand on her face and she's kind of squishing her cheek up and towards her nose. So here you can see that in the reference photo, and so we're going to take care to paint that in a sculptural kind of way, using transitions and shadows to build that form and not using lines and harsh marks. I want to be using brush strokes and color temperature to help round out the form. As with the rest of the face, we're going to get into painting the mouth now, and you want to definitely keep that soft. And even when painting adult mouths, they tend to, I don't know, I just feel like they look better when they're really painted soft and kind of messy. And if you find yourself painting in a really tight, controlled manner, one way to help kind of loosen you up is to hold your paintbrush further away from the bristles. I find that when I do that, it's really difficult to paint tight and have a lot of control. So whatever you're putting down is going to be loose and messy. Sometimes I'll even try to trick myself. I'll tell myself that you can go back over it and work on it more later, but the first pass should be loose and messy. I don't know. I think looking back, I don't think I've ever gone back over it and made it tighter. I find that the loose original version that I put down is the one that I stay with. I am just so loving her expression. I mean, how fitting is that in this time of pandemic and isolation, staying inside, all the stuff that's going on, just kind of all summed up in her face. And if you remember the original reference picture that we took from Pexels.com, you see how you can take your original reference material and drop it into Photoshop or whatever photo editing software you have and play around with it. I mean, we took it from the original and I think we really changed it up. I feel like we made a pretty modern day child portrait, and then painting it just seemed a lot better as far as compared to the original. There was no interesting background. I deepened the shadows a little bit, and I took away some of the saturation. I wanted to have that neutral, more old master style appeal to it. And I just wanted you to see that so you don't have to really ever settle for your original reference material that you end up with. You can take it a little bit further. And that's the beauty of putting your reference material in Photoshop. I mean, you can really get creative, and we could add wings, put her in different scenarios, backgrounds. There's just, I mean, it's endless. It's just to the extent of your creativity. Okay, so I'm about 25 videos into this whole YouTube video thing, and you'd think I'd have it down by now, but no. So I was painting along, I'm in the zone, like the zone where you lose track of time and everything around you. And the next thing I know, I'm finished with the painting, and I go to check the footage on the camera, and the battery had died. Usually I plug it in so I don't have to worry about that. For whatever reason, I didn't plug it in this time. So this painting ended up at about, I don't know, just getting into the hand portion, and then we lost the footage. I did, however, have the iPhone going for a time-lapse video, so I'm gonna play that for you following this so you can see the whole process. I'm going to slow it down as best I can, but it is time-lapse video, so you miss some of it, but you'll get the gist of it. The essence is there. And yeah, so I still make a mistake every now and then. Good to know, huh? So let's do it. Okay, here's a look at my messy palette towards the end of the painting. And then here you'll see my setup, how I have the monitor to the left and then the canvas is directly in front of my palette. If you love portraiture and figurative art, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Here's a look at the finished portrait, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.